when you see some of these alt win totals and you bet the overs, and then these teams are terrible. And you're going to be like, man, why did I bet that alt win total on some of these teams? And I think what we've tried to do here in the network is let you know there are going to be teams that vastly overachieve and vastly underachieve. The key is finding which ones. So I think we've identified, hopefully, 6 that we're going to give you some good food for thought today. And I want to start off with one because I did play the flat total on them, the regular, and you've played the adjusted under total, and that's the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah, look, I identified 3 that I like, right? And so these are ones that are available over at DraftKings right now. Listen, we will get alt totals posted here in town at some point, but I did identify ones that I'm going to be looking for, and I am going to be looking for an alt under on the Cardinals. Now, whether that's 3.5 or 2.5, I don't know which one I'll end up going with, but I think we're looking at a 2-win, 3-win type team here for this Cardinals squad. And take a look. We've talked about this pretty extensively, but if you're just joining us for the first time, there's real incentive for this team to not be good. It is one of the really, listen, as far as like teams that have to rebuild and have to kind of start over, they're in as good a position maybe as any team that I can recently remember as far as that goes, because if they do, in fact, have the worst record and end up with the number 1 overall pick, and the season goes chalky like we think, where the team with the second lowest win total is the Texans, and if the Texans do end up, in fact, having the second worst record in the league, the Cardinals end up with the first and the second pick in the draft, and then you have a decision, which is like the greatest decision basically could ever have. Do we move forward with Kyler Murray? Do we flip Kyler Murray for even more assets?
Yeah.
Do we take Caleb Williams with that 1 pick? How valuable is that 1 pick going to be for someone who wants Caleb Williams? And oh, by the way, there are 2 other quarterbacks, Drake May being the one that maybe most of you have heard of, who are going to push for, if not the number 1 overall pick, but certainly the number 2 pick. So now you put yourself in a position to really, in short order, kind of get back on the horse right here from an Arizona Cardinals standpoint, because those draft picks are going to be worth gold. I mean, they are going to be worth everything in this world. And here's the thing. Maybe you decide, you know what? We're going to flip Kyler Murray. We'll use that number 1 overall pick on Caleb Williams. Well, if you don't, and you want to stick with Kyler Murray, then that 1 pick, that 2 pick is going to bring you back so much in return. I think there's real incentive for this team. And the players are always going to play hard, Dave. The front office does not have to put them in the best position to do that. Right.
Totally agree.
So I think that, we even brought up on Good News, Bad News a couple of weeks ago. They've already talked about moving Hollywood Brown. They're already talking about moving James Conner. Anybody with a pulse might end up getting moved on that team. And so I really do like an alt under here.
I played them at the under 3.5 at minus $1.05. I like where your head's at there. Under 2.5 for plus 250. Tell me about America's team, because they're easy to root for. We all know that. What do you make of their alt win total this year?
Yeah, honestly, I think if you're going to play an alt on this Cowboys team, I like the alt over on this team. And listen, you're getting nearly 2-1 for them to go 12.
Woo!
They got to go 12-5, right? And I don't
did it last year.
I don't think 12-5 is out of the realm of possibility at all. If you're watching at home right now, because you're a VSiN Pro subscriber, as you should be,
and you're an American,
or if you're over on DraftKings Network, hello, how you doing? You see the schedule right here, and you kind of start to see there is a interesting little stretch on the back end. That being said, if this Cowboys team is as good as we think they're going to be, that stretch of 13-17 where it goes Seahawks, Eagles, Bills, Dolphins, Lions, that is not a great 5-game stretch listen, no one is going to sit here and say like, oh yeah, they're going to come out of that thing 4-1 or 5-0 or something. But if this team is as good as we think, a 3-2 out of there, I think is perfectly reasonable.
Well,
and
you could have racked
up, and the ceiling could be 4-1 in that 5-game stretch. And if that's the case, you end it with the Commanders. By the way, before that stretch, you get the Commanders again, so you kind of go in on that with a glorified bye. Panthers the week before that, Giants the week before that. I mean, there's a lot of winnable games early. There is a tough stretch there towards the end, but if this team is as good as we think they're going to be, they can get through that with at least 3 wins.
I laid $1.40 on the Cowboys at 9.5 wins. That has gone up. Yesterday's price is not today's. It's now at $1.55. Love the alt win total for this team as well. You mentioned the tough stretch. Hey, the Cowboys, if they get off to a really good start, you could look then at adjusted win totals the other way and maybe find a nice juicy middle there if you've done, and the Cowboys do a lot of the yeoman's work before they get to Turkey Day and beyond. But I'm with you. The beginning part of the schedule, certainly the middle of it, looks very manageable for the Cowboys if Dak Prescott does not turn it over. You've got one more. It's going to disappoint some people out here in the desert, but I can understand it.
Yeah, look, I got the Raiders on their alt under as well. Plus 175 on an under 5.5. I think an under 6.5 would be a little bit more along the lines of something I'd be looking at. You're still going to get plus money on that, but at DraftKings you can get 5.5 under and you get plus 175. There's just not a lot of talent on this team. It's they're in a hard division. Honestly, this is another one of those teams in which it could kind of get off the rails pretty quick, and you start to say like, okay, they come out in week 1. What if Denver is vastly improved like we think? Things go off the rails. And by the way, you get the biggest advantage that you're going to get if you're the Broncos in week 1, playing at home where no team is going to be acclimated to playing at altitude or whatever. You're the team that's been practicing in that. And so here come the Raiders there in week 1. And then, by the way, they head out to Buffalo as well, and then to the Chargers in week 4. So you're talking about 3 of the first 4 games out on the road against very tough competition. And the Steelers, you and I both think the Steelers are going to be better.
Their defense is going to be loaded for bear.
You and I both think the Steelers are going to be better. I think we could easily be staring down the barrel of 0-4. And if that's the case, I think things could really start kind of going off the rails. There's already,
is Jimmy G even going to play?
Devontae Adams was already saying, hey, I don't like where things are going with this. And maybe that gets really cranked up even more if they start 0-4. And I think it's a very real possibility.
I think you're spot on there. Again, I'm rooting for those guys in the silver and black, but it does not look like they're going to get off on the good foot this year. Okay, I've talked a lot about the Packers. I do like them a lot. I've played them at plus $1.75, at 5-1 to win the division, and also plus $1.75 to make the postseason. So that's why playing them at over 8.5 wins, the adjusted win total at plus $1.90 still makes sense to me. Again, this is about Mark Murphy. This is about LaFleur. This is about Gutekunst. This is about proving that we got Jordan Love years ago, by the way. When we traded into the first round, we had a guy that was just winning the MVP at quarterback. There's a reason why we did that. We're going to find out. This team won 8 games last year. Rodgers was not the best version of himself last year. The defense took a step back. Joe Carroll's got to do a better job with that squad because I think they actually have talent on that side. Jair Alexander, to me, is one of the best cover corners in the game. So I think they have more talent there than they've manifested, and now they got to help out your young quarterback. I think they will. I think this is a team that's going to be right there with the Lions at the end of the year. Jeremy Wengel, our director, is going to cut my mic, but the Bears' all-win total under is very playable to me. And the reason is one, you're giving me plus 205 to go under 5.5 wins. And I just look at it, 6.5 wins. And I just look at it and I go, why is this team going to make the biggest jump? And all of a sudden go from the worst team in the league last year at 3 wins to 7 wins. Again, 6, and I still cash this ticket. So I'm just saying they double their win total from a year ago. I still cash the alt under 6.5. And Matt, nothing like Justin Fields. I can't wait to see what he becomes, but I know what he is right now. Can he become what we all want him to become? And that's a pocket passer, or at least a guy that's more accurate in the pass game. The roster's better, but the defense to me doesn't look like, they're going to go out and stop people. They're going to have to outscore a lot of people because I don't think that defense is going to be ready for prime time yet. So to me, I just don't look at the schedule and go, book them for 7. I think more things have to go right for that than for me to hit this alt-win total under.
Those first 2 games are going to be the key to this bet for sure. Because, listen, if you're going to get – no matter what you think about the Packers, it's still going to be what is essentially a glorified rookie starting at quarterback for them. And if you're going to get them, you probably got to get them early. Mm-hmm. And so you get them first game of the year. And then the Bucs – and I think the Bucs have – at least a little bit of talent on the offensive side of the ball.
It'll be a tricky one down in Tampa.
The defense is certainly nothing to write home about because they had to get rid of everyone, and they're in a rebuild for sure. But those first 2 games are 2 winnable games if you're the Bears. And, you better win at least one of them. You can't come out of that stretch 0-2.
The last one I had Rams all total, win total under 5.5. We talked a lot about the Rams and why in good news, bad news. I think that's very playable to the points of Cooper Kupp might be off that team. Aaron Donald could be off that team. Jalen Ramsey is already off said team.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.